Hi, everyone. I was going to say good afternoon, but you don't know where people are listening from. It's certainly afternoon here in Dublin, and it is gorgeous and sunny today. Absolutely spectacular day. And today I have Clare from Inclusive World Training with me talking about the podcast that came out on Friday just gone. And myself and Clare spoke about disability inclusion in the workplace. And for me, it was such an eye-opening topic. There was so much that I had no idea about prior to that. Some of the statistics that Clare shared, some of the I suppose the negativity and the shame associated with disability, especially in the workplace. And I thought it'd be a great opportunity to get Clare on to a live session today to talk a little bit about the podcast, to talk about her business as well, and her own podcast as well. And so, Clare, would you like to kind of share a little bit about yourself and maybe some of the tips that we shared on the podcast?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Aoife. And it's a stunningly beautiful day down in Cork as well. So we're going to enjoy it while we have it because we've had enough rain. My name is Clare Kennelly. Originally, the business is called Inclusive Cork, but we're now Inclusive World Training because we're all online. So I do training all over the world. I generally use the Zoom platform, but other platforms as well. My podcast is called the Disruptability podcast, and I have generally interviewed other people with disabilities because I am a disabled person. I'm vision impaired, but I'm very aware that disability we're a very diverse group, and it's a very broad spectrum of people. So I've interviewed people with other disabilities than me because I'm always learning, whether it's neurodiversity or autism or brittle bone syndrome or spinal injury, deaf, like we're all so diverse. And even within the vision impaired and blind world, we're very diverse. I work with groups of people who have vision loss. And for me, it's my central vision is impacted. For other people, it's their peripheral vision. For some people, they have absolutely no perception of light or dark. So, yeah, we're a very, very diverse group. And what I do is I work within disability business inclusion. I help organizations become disability confident and disability smart, Aoife. That's what I do.
Like that's definitely something that came up on the podcast, this idea of the intersectionality, but also the temptation and the default mode of kind of broad brushstrokes, just saying, oh, well, everyone who has that disability is the same. Or, one thing in particular that you said that struck a chord with me, Clare, like people are saying, but you're blind, but you don't look blind. And it's like, well, what does a blind person look like? How do we actually define that? And really challenging how we think and getting people talking about it, because it has this association of, well, not really being spoken about. And I think some of the interesting things that you said as well on the podcast, Clare, were this idea of these days that children and teenagers are surrounded by people who have disabilities, and then they enter the workplace and they're like, well, where's all the, where's the diversity here? Where's all the disabled people?
Yeah, and it's not even that they're particularly looking for it, because they're in the classroom, and it's not that they even use the word disability, but they just know that people are wired in different ways and different people's bodies work in different ways. It's part of the human condition. It's part of being human. And I suppose it's something that maybe COVID and what the whole world is experiencing now, we all recognize how vulnerable we are. And some of us are vulnerable from birth. We're born with a disability or, an immunocompromised system. But some of us may acquire that during our lifetime. We may have an accident, or through lifestyle, we may acquire a particular condition like diabetes, type 2, so it can happen to anyone. We're all human. And we're here for a certain amount of time on this earth. And I suppose what I want to do is ensure that everyone, no matter how their body works or interacts with their environment and their society, that they're included, and that they're not included because of somebody's perception or unconscious bias, that they're not able to do something. And I think that's number one, that people are aware of their own unconscious bias, that maybe we live in a more conscious way. And it's not about making you feel guilty, I feel a bit uncomfortable around disability. That's exactly what my training is trying to do, is to, if you if you do feel uncomfortable, well, number one, recognize it. You're aware you feel uncomfortable. I don't know what to do when there's a, an interpreter in the room, or I don't know how to behave with a wheelchair. Like, let's get that practical stuff out of the way and look at the person, and is that person able to do the job? And if they're able to do the job, then they should be doing that job. They should have the same opportunity for employment as everyone else. Because remember, I gave you some statistics, like the employment situation for disabled people is pretty dismal. It's pretty bad. In Ireland, it's like, 50% of graduates are unemployed if they have a disability. So there's something wrong there. But look, maybe with remote working, that'll improve, hopefully.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, I suppose now is the opportunity, more than any time before, if people are able to work from home, that maybe it causes, I suppose it's not getting in the way, it's not causing an issue as it might do in an office situation. But some of the statistics that you shared were like, really, I had no idea before about this, especially acquired disabilities and things like that. I thought that was very, very interesting. And another area was these key steps. And I love this idea of awareness. And I don't think it applies just to disability. I think it applies to a lot of different things. The first step is about becoming aware of your own reactions or your own biases or whatever that might be. And, I suppose if this is one of the key drivers of what's going on, like, what can we actually do about it? So, like, I know that you had shared some things around unconscious bias specifically, and some steps that we can take to start overcoming it and start embracing it and start, like, having that level of diversity in as well.
Yeah, and with unconscious bias, any organization can do training around that, and it is about being a more conscious how you behave in the workplace, etc. And I suppose in terms of 5 steps in around if you are wanting to bring more disability, more diversity into your organization, give it some time. You might want to look at different pathways of getting that talent pool into your organization. So number 2, be flexible, and be flexible about where you meet or how you meet or how the conversation is going to go. Like, many people who are autistic may not be able to give eye contact during an interview, or you might have to use more concrete language or more visual cues, etc. The same with maybe if someone is deaf, you might want to bring an interpreter into the room. If someone is blind and they're using a service dog, you may need to do some practical things around having a dog coming into an interview. So there's a lot of practical sides of things, so be flexible around that. Don't assume that you know everything or that you need to know everything. Okay, number 1, I'm going to put everyone at ease. You do not need to be a medical expert if you're working with someone with a disability. I get people calling me with disabilities all the time, around questions around employment, etc. And I haven't heard of half of the conditions that people are calling me with. I'm just like, okay, and I don't need to know the ins and outs of the condition. What I need to know is, so what do you need in the workplace? Like, what do you need to be successful in a workplace? So what are your skills and qualities that you're bringing in? But then what does your employer need to know, or what do we have to have in place for that? So it's a conversation. It's about good communication and everyone communicating honestly, and the other one is just ask the person. We are real people as well as maybe having a disability. I am a woman, I am a mother, I have lots of other intersectionalities, lots of other parts of me that interact with society just the way that you do. It just happens that I'm vision impaired as well. And I don't know if you can see my workspace, but I have loads of machinery here and all the assistive technology that I need to be able to do my job, and once somebody has the training and the assistive technology that they need in an accessible workplace, and maybe that accessible workplace will be their home now with remote working. It doesn't always have to be the office. Like, if you're a wheelchair user and your home space has your disabled toilet and very accessible, maybe you don't always have to go into an inaccessible office. But I think one of the most inaccessible things is people's attitude, really. And that's what needs awareness. If we change attitudes, just even a little bit today from this conversation, Aoife, or from you inviting me on that podcast, I'm be delighted, because it's open your minds. Don't assume. And number 5 was be kind. Be kind. And we all need to be a bit kinder, whether someone's disabled or not. Lads, we're all under pressure now, you know, kids working from home, parents at home, the uncertainty of the future. I call it VUCA times. We're in volatile, uncertain, complicated, and ambiguous times. It's in VUCA times, you know. So.
And I think, especially, you know, I'm not sure what it's like in other parts of the world, but certainly in Ireland, we're in lockdown number 3. And it's a gorgeous day today, which is great. But actually, I can definitely hear from my clients and from my friends, people are really struggling. They don't see a light at the end of the tunnel. There's not really anything to look forward to. I don't watch the news personally. I haven't watched the news in years. That's an active decision on my part. I obviously get information in other ways, but I tend to watch the news. But I can certainly feel the atmosphere and feel what's going on for people at the moment, which is, you know, it's quite stressful. A quick shout out to Mary Finn, who is listening in live. Thank you so much, Mary, for tuning in today. Clare, is there anything else that you'd like to say about the podcast? I haven't included a link, but I will put a link after I'm off this live session right now. I'll put a link to the main, to the full podcast. So for anyone who wants to listen into the wonderful conversation that I had with Clare, you're very welcome to do so using the link. Is there anything else that you'd like to share today, Clare?
Well, look, just enjoy the podcast. Absolutely get in touch with me if you're interested in any training, or if you have any questions around improving employee engagement or employee communication, and hopefully improving disclosure. I think a lot of us, and I did it myself for a long time with my own employer, we hide our disabilities because there is a negative narrative, and we are afraid of just being discriminated, maybe not having the opportunity to progress within an organization, because if you disclose you have a disability, everyone's minding you, you know. Like, you don't want to be minded. You actually want to have the opportunity to progress on an equal footing with everyone else, but maybe just like you work around in a different way. So just to really let employers know there's an amazing talent pool out there, and if you have a little bit of fear around it, you know, let's talk, let's have an open conversation and eliminate that fear. I am working with incredible people from, you know, like especially Gen Z. I'm working with some transition year students at the moment, and you know, you'll be fighting over the talent, right? They're blind and vision loss, but you're gonna lose out if you don't get these young people, because they are incredible. So I just want to be positive about the future, and I want to leave a legacy to younger people, that I suppose, to help them navigate the obstacles that I encountered during my working life. Now, I had an amazing career, and now I've started my own business, and I've been very, very lucky. But it shouldn't be about luck. Yeah, it really shouldn't be. It should be an equal equity, justice for all. You know, that's what I'm.
There should be no obstacles.
No obstacles. Get rid of the obstacles and the fears. Yeah. So thanks, Aoife. That's it.
So much. Thank you so much, Clare, for your time today and for your time on the podcast. As I mentioned, I'll put the link to the full podcast below this video. Once I finish the live, then you'll get access to the full podcast, which came out last Friday. So I hope you enjoy. And as always, I love people getting involved in the conversation. So feel free to add your comments below, and both myself and Clare will be able to see the comments there.
Brilliant. Thank you.